Good afternoon. I'm Jamie Montgomery, and welcome back to the Montgomery Summit 2021. Today, we have a real treat in store for you. Our special guest, Eric Yuan of Zoom, who will be interviewed by John Chambers. Eric founded Zoom in 2011 to deliver happiness and bring teams together in a frictionless video environment. Zoom's video-first unified communications platform continues to dramatically transform the way global enterprises communicate. Under Eric's leadership, Zoom was one of the highest performing tech IPOs of 2019, and that was just the start. In 2020, Zoom the company became Zoom the verb. It was the fastest growing cloud software company ever, and the rest is history in the making. Prior to founding Zoom, Eric was a corporate vice president of engineering at Cisco, where he was responsible for Cisco's collaboration software development. He was one of the founding engineers and vice president of engineering at WebEx, and grew the team from 10 to over 800 and built a world-class product. It was a great training ground with a great mentor, ultimate boss, John Chambers. It's nice to reunite them today for a conversation. John was the executive chairman and CEO of Cisco for over 20 years. During his 25 years at Cisco, he grew the company from 70 million when he joined in 1991 to over 47 billion when he stepped down as CEO in 2015. This included acquiring 180 companies, and at one point in time, it was the world's largest company in terms of market cap. After stepping down as Cisco's executive chairman, John launched JC2 Ventures. JC stands for John Chambers, in case anyone's confused. In the current role as founder and CEO of John Chambers of JC2, which is his son's also JC. He's investing and helping 18 startups grow and scale, and we have a lot of success and fun together working with entrepreneurs. There's no better entrepreneur than the one we have here with us today. John is also chairman of the U.S. Indian Strategic Partnership Forum and was most recently appointed global ambassador to French technology by President Emmanuel Macron of France. So John, thank you. Eric, thank you. And I'll turn it over to you and look forward to this wonderful conversation.
Jamie, thank you very much for the kind introduction. And Eric, we're going to have a lot of fun. I've realized you constantly learn. I look at your background, connecting the dots, my book. You are ahead of me on marketing already in terms of today's discussion. I want to use this as a chance really to teach and share your success, but also takeaways the audience can have about what you've done well, some of your lessons learned in life, how you approach things. Very often, if you start with just a little bit of your background, so people get to know you who may not know you in terms of how you came to Silicon Valley, how you took a dream of a vision that could be done, and first part with a large company, and you made a huge difference at Cisco, and thank you, thank you, thank you. But then creativity looked at your next move and what you've accomplished so well at Zoom. So could you maybe give us your 1 or 2 minute elevator pitch on letting people get to know you, how you arrived at where you were, and a little bit of your background and a little bit of your personality show through, if you would.
Thank you, John. Yeah, first of all, I do like my virtual background, which is your book. And there's a great book about leadership, about the startup world. And my story is pretty straightforward. And I moved to Silicon Valley in 1997. I was born in China. I got inspired by the Bill Gates' the speech when I was traveling Japan in 1995. I'd like to embrace the first wave of internet revolution and also to pursue my American dream. I moved to Silicon Valley in 1997, joined WebEx as one of the first several founding engineers. Later on, I became vice president of engineering at WebEx and joined Cisco. I learned a lot, and your leadership, you taught me, taught a lot of other leaders, a lot of great things about leadership, about the market transition, about startup, a lot of things. And then I left to start my own company, Zoom, because I live in Silicon Valley. I call that Startup Valley. I always wanted to start something. That's how I started Zoom since 2011. We would like to, build a better solution to help people stay connected. And over the past several years, we built a video conferencing app, and we are going to transform our business to become a platform company. We truly believe video is the new voice. A lot of things are not done yet. We're working very hard on that.
You know, it was fun talking with you the other day, and it is just a joy watching how you continued to develop and candidly how good a person you are. We talked about market transitions and focusing on market transitions, not on competitors, getting those transitions right, and then enabled by new technology. But you took it a step further in terms of simplicity, et cetera. Could you maybe share with the audience a little bit how you think about it and how you took the principles which you and I both believe in and took it up one more step?
Yeah, John, when I was at Cisco, I learned a lot, from you, and you talk about the culture and opportunity. One thing you really taught us a lot is about market transition. I think fundamentally, I think that benefited me, benefited Zoom a lot, because if you work on something new, if you do not, understand what's the market transition, the opportunity, market size is much smaller. So when it comes to video communication, right, if you look at the market transition from text-based communication to voice to video, that's a huge market transition. Because of that, I started thinking about, this is great, there's a market transition about video communication, what I should do differently. Because I spent a lot of time talking to customers, trying to understand what's their pain point. They all talk about, very complex deployment, so expensive, usability not very good. That's why I think about it, given this market transition, if I can build something to simplify the video communication, make it extremely affordable and make it very reliable, maybe I can, ride on the wave of this new video communication transition. That's how I dare to start it. Without understanding the market, the importance of market transition, I guarantee you, I even do not dare to start Zoom. That's why I give you the credit to you, John, because it really taught us. Number one thing is to think about market transition.
It's fascinating, but you took a market transition enabled by new technology. And I always worded when we talk at Cisco with our leaders that it was about your competition would always come from below. But what it really was, and you chose the word simplicity remarkably well. Can you share with the group how you think about that? Because it is true. The next transition is almost one that takes the complexity out, makes it so much easier to use, and brings it therefore to the masses. How did you think about that? And was it an aha moment that you got it, or is it just something you instinctively knew and knew how to migrate to?
Yeah, so I was a part of the original WebEx team, and I do spend a lot of time on talking with the customers. It used to be they are pretty happy. But soon I realized every day when I talk with WebEx customer, even I wrote a lot of code about WebEx, I thought I was not happy. The reason why after talking to them, they told me that they are not happy. They complain about a lot of things about they want to use the iPad to join the call from other countries. The quality is not very good. They need to click multiple, they need to go through multiple steps to turn on the video quality is not good. Then I realized the reason why the WebEx was built not for video conferencing, it's for the data collaboration, for data conferencing. So how to simplify that experience is very important. So for the everyday customer, they complain about that. Then I take a step back to think about, are there any ways, to simplify that experience? Just one click, at the most 2 clicks, I can see you, I can talk with you, very reliable quality. Then I realized there's no way to tweak the existing solutions because the architecture is very old. The only way is to build a new solution. At the same time, how to further simplify the user experience is also very hard. We think that's easy, but after we let the customer try that, they also say, no, that's not easy. So that's why every day we got to spend a lot of time on talking with the customers, make sure they really enjoy using our service. Otherwise, very soon, you think your product is simple, but the next week, customers say, no, that's not simple anymore. That's why we got to be very paranoid. Think about the simplicity. That's the key for our success.
It makes complete sense. You mastered a term that video is the new voice. And if you watch what we did at Cisco, we took the concept of the internet for techies and data and then put voice on it and then said voice would be free and completely transformed a service provider market and the utilization of the network into all of our lives. Expand further. How did you capture it? And I love the simplicity with which you positioned your company off of that. Can you kind of teach us a little bit about the thought process behind it and lessons learned from it?
Yeah, sure. So, John, first of all, this video, the new voice, that did not come from me. If anyone go to YouTube or play around with the video, John, from your speech, you mentioned that many times before. Video, the new voice. I learned it from you. Thank you. So you are so right. Voice is free, but the video is the new voice. The reason why is you look at the physical, in person, face-to-face meeting. I want to see with eye contact to build a trust. That's very important. How to mimic that experience to online. That's the reason why video is going to replace voice. Otherwise, if I can only hear you, it's really hard to build a trust, right? Not to mention we all work from home, right? We need some social interaction, but video can completely fix that problem with the eye contact, with the body language. However, if the quality is not good, or maybe it's really hard to use, right? People are going to give up, especially the boundary, the line between the working from home or working in the office, it's not clear anymore, right? You can work anywhere with any device. Even the grandparents or the 12 kids, they also want to leverage video as well. So how to make sure anyone can enjoy using the video communication like Zoom without the simplicity? I think even if you have a great technology, people they are not going to use your technology. That's why every day we spend a lot of time on talking to the customer, try to understand how to reduce the number of clicks to join the meeting, and how to make sure any device you can use to join the meeting. That's very important, to make sure we can simplify the product experience.
It's amazing watching your style. You are very humble and you give a lot of people credit for your success. And it's amazing what you can do when you don't care who gets the credit. You're a master at it. And I was taking a couple notes on your transition there. Very well done. But if you would take a step back and share with the audience, are there 2 or 3 things that you believe contributed most to your success? And if so, what are they? And more in a teaching moment than worrying about being too humble with it.
That's a great question, John. I think several things. First of all, I think everyone, all the participants, we all have a dream, right? It's easy to have a dream, but to make a dream come true is not that easy. But one lesson learned is don't give up. Like I tried to apply for the visa for many, many times. Right? Finally, I got it here. And even when I started Zoom, I remember the early days, every VC, they said no. But I did not give up and got a funding for my friends. So one thing I learned is don't give up. Perseverance is extremely important for you to achieve anything. That's the number one thing I learned.
It's amazing. I think great people like Jack Welch, a leader in the generation in front of me, taught you would never have a great company or great leader till you have a near-death experience. And one of the competitors that we faced at Cisco called Nacera, their founder, Martin, who I really like, by the way, and a tough competitor, he came 4 times. He almost didn't make payroll. And I told him when I got to know him very well, if I'd known that, I would have helped him with that problem. But to your point, nothing comes easy, and you're a product of more your setbacks than your successes. What's been your biggest success, if you would articulate it? And if you could share a setback you've had and how you dealt with that setback, what would it be?
I think, first of all, we just started. I do not think we are successful yet, but we are working hard on that. I think in terms of setbacks, I think every time I think about those setbacks can really help us, help our business, help myself to become a stronger person, to become a stronger company. So quite often, if we take a step back to understand what had happened, we can learn from that lesson. One thing I learned is in my career is anytime I have mentors. That's very important. Otherwise, I thought I work hard, I read a business book, I can achieve something. That's not the case. I'll give you one example. Back to Cisco time, one of my mentors, the Jim Sheriff, and one day I had a call meeting with him. He traveled here in San Jose, and I have a great conversation. He told me that, Eric, John Chambers gave me a task. Let me find those young leaders. You are one of them. You have a potential. That's why reason why I want to meet with you. And he recommended a book, that book called Speed of Trust. And today, I think that's the most important book, our favorite book at Zoom. Because to build a startup company, speed is everything, right? Without a trust, without a framework to build a trust, you really cannot achieve the speed. The reason why I read that book, the reason why it's really helped Zoom, because I have a mentor. He recommended the book. And that's why I think, I learn a lesson is always have a mentor. Stay humble, learn from others. That's extremely important.
When you think about it, I'm a believer leaders' currency, whether it's of a company or even of a country, is made up of three elements. Their track record, the relationships they form, and trust. And you've grasped that, I think, extremely well. Culture is really at the foundation of all three of those currency elements. How would you describe the culture at Zoom? How has it evolved over time? And when you're describing it to a new recruit or to an investor or to a company about to do business with you, how do you net out what is the strength of the culture at Zoom?
Yeah, so our culture at Zoom is pretty simple or straightforward, which is just 2 words: deliver happiness. The meaning for me as the CEO of the company is really not about the customer, product, service, investor, and so on and so forth. My number one priority is to make sure our employees, they are happy. And together as a business, make sure our customers happy. I think the one thing I feel proud, I feel very proud of Zoom is on day one, just myself, I wrote down the company, the culture statement, deliver happiness. Because I understand that life is short, right? How to pursue the sustainable happiness is very important. Especially I'm going to spend a lot of time to build the company, and probably the 10 years, 20 years just to achieve a small milestone. I want to make sure I can enjoy that process. That's why I have a great culture to make sure every employee, they come to the office or they work on something every day when they wake up, they feel happy. Otherwise, there's no productivity. Otherwise, they will suffer from that.
How do you strike the balance when you deal with your leadership team between praising them when appropriate and then challenging them when we perhaps miss goals? My view is always praise in public and criticize in private. Are there key concepts that you use in terms of keeping your team motivated, and yet as a leader being able to have the tough discussions about what you must do better? Any key secret sauce or concepts here that come to mind?
Yeah, John, I do not think I have a secret sauce. That's also something we are dealing with every day. Especially we hire a lot of new people, new leaders. So on the one hand, I told our team we got to push each other, challenge each other harder. That's the only way to unleash the power of the entire management team. Otherwise, everyone be so nice to each other. That's not a way to build the company. On the other hand, I also want to make sure we all know how to establish trust. If everyone understand each other, intention is good, we trust each other, I think nobody will challenge. I give one example, like someone hired for marketing team, they realize something not right in the sales team. They dare to stop by to tell them, this is not right, you got to fix. With no trust, we do not dare to challenge each other. That's why how to balance the trust and also the challenge each other and to make sure we all have a great intention. That's very important. Otherwise, we probably have a lot of a misunderstanding, and that's really does not work.
I've watched your style. You are always thinking 3 to 5 years out. Most leaders do not. They tend to get caught into especially once they're a public company. You get caught in this quarter, this year, et cetera, type of thinking. How do you keep the right balance for your vision and the key members of your team that have to be aware of where you're going? And how would you paint the picture of what you want Zoom to look like 5 years from now, to whether it's to your employees, to whether it's to your investors, your partners, or your customers? In other words, what's the next chapter for Zoom, and where will you take your company?
Yeah, that's a great question. So where it started, probably I spent all the time, on execution. I really get the product rolled out and have the first several customers. But very soon I realized we have a lot of employees, even if they are working so hard for the day-to-day execution, they also want to understand what's the next, what's the vision for the company, what's the next step. So with that, I have to spend the time on thinking about the future journey. That's how to balance like me as the founder. For now, actually, probably I spend like around 50% of time thinking about what's the future, not this fiscal year, next several years. Are there any other new growth opportunities where the company should go? Because I think fundamentally being the CEO or the founder, and no matter how hard I'm working on something, if I drive the company to the wrong direction, the more we are working harder, the more mistakes we're going to make. So that's why, to make sure we understand the direction, make sure we can be ahead of any other competitors to build something very innovative, to be the first vendor to come up with a solution to address the customer pain point. That's very, very important. So that's why, for me, for now, it's probably 50% time, not for this year's things, more like the future problems. We got to be ahead of our own game.
How much time do you spend thinking about competitors, and how much do you more use that for the score of the game of how well you implemented on getting the market transitions right and the product simplicity? Just your general approach to what do you think about when you think about competitors and peers in the market?
So the good news, also that's also what I learned at Cisco. The good news, I do not think about the competitors. Otherwise, I even did not dare to start a Zoom. Because back then, there's so many big legacies, great competitors. In some solutions are free. I think fundamentally, if you think about competitors, very likely there's no innovation. Very likely, you always want to play a catch-up game. So I really think about how to spend more time with customers, more time than any of other competitors. As long as we want to be the first one to understand the customer pain point, to come up with a solution, be the first one, I think we can survive. If we think about competitors, very likely we might go into the wrong direction because that's not what the customer wanted. That's your competitor build. That's not your solution. That's why I really do not think much about competitors. Really spend more time with our customers.
You've said so many great things in the interview today, but if there's one I'd like to re-echo, you basically think about customers and meeting their needs, and you don't think about competitors because it's like looking out the rearview mirror of your car as you're going 100 miles an hour on it. I think that's one of the important things for the audience to read, because so often, not just investors, employees, customers, they think about it in competitive terms, when in fact, you really think about what's the outcome you want. You and I both enjoy reading books. I'm dyslexic, so I'm careful not to read too many long ones. For me, Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm book is one of the easiest reads, and I strongly encourage startups and regular companies to use the terminology on that simple graph of very early innovators when you form a company or you move in a new product area, then your early adopters, then you cross the chasm, and you get into early majority, then mainstream, and then the laggards. But that common technology and words have served me for 20 some years. And I knew Jeffrey very well, and he often helped our leadership team at Cisco. Is there a particular book or something, lessons learned from your reading or a periodical that really comes to mind with one key or two key concepts on lessons learned?
Yeah, Jeffrey's book also, and also I read it twice also. I think at Zoom, and also my first favorite book still is The Speed of Trust. The reason why the startup is everything is about the speed, right? Without trust, there's no speed, right? That's why The Speed of Trust also is Stephen Covey, really taught us a framework, how to build trust. Especially look at Zoom, we had a lot of employees, they all work from home remotely. I never saw them, right? And how to build trust with those employees, how to build trust across multiple departments. It's very important. Without understanding a framework, how to build trust, it's really hard to drive up the speed, drive up the innovation. That's my favorite book, Speed of Trust.
One of the hardest lessons for me to learn as a young CEO was that process wasn't a dirty word. It wasn't bureaucracy. And it took me a little bit longer to learn it than maybe it should have. But once I did learn it, you could suddenly do 180 acquisitions at a speed no one else could. You could move into new market transitions at a speed that others could not do. Are there similar concepts in your mind in terms of how you think about process? How do you keep the urgency of now, and the enemy of speed is perfection, but also the enemy of speed is not process? How do you think about it, and how do you take those very complex terms and explain it to your team?
Yeah, John, it's a great question. I think for almost every company, like every startup, like Zoom, that's one of the problems we are always facing every day. The reason why when we were very small, no process, we all enjoy that. Very soon, we had a lot of employees, have customers. We had to build the process, especially after it became a public company process here and there. Very soon, employees started to complain about that. The process is so complex, so hard, right? So our, the philosophy was that before our employees started to complain about those complex processes, we want to make sure simplicity. Think about the simplicity. Think about how to simplify everything before you got a very complex process. That's why I also recommend a book, Why Simple Wins. So we want to make sure how to leverage automation, how to make sure have a very simple process. Give you one example, like approval process at Zoom. Even several years ago, I told our team, no matter what, just one approval. Don't have one thing like you have a 3% or 4% multiple department approve one thing. It's not scalable, and will make an employee not happy. That's why I did it on day one. Think about the simplicity to simplify your process rather than waiting for the employee. They are going to complain about the process. Then you are going to fix that problem. It's too late.
It is in many ways. A last question, if I may. I always like to ask a guest about key lessons learned that we haven't covered, or I wasn't smart enough to delve into, or one lasting message for the audience as we finish our session today. My message is very simple, is I think we've got to dream again as a country, and in Silicon Valley especially, and then we've got to have the execution capability to make those dreams come true, as you said. Is there a key last thought or process you would like to share with this audience today?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to share with the audience is about the company's value. So if you start a company or you're going to start a company, always think about the company value. This is extremely important. That's very sustainable. At Zoom, our company value is just one word: care. Meaning care about the community, customer, company, team, as well as ourselves. When we came up with that value, that's the first one is care about community. Our employee asked the why. I think, John, it's one thing you told me that truly benefit me and Zoom is about the care about the community. Because before I joined the Cisco, I thought a startup, you just build a great product, make sure you have a customers, and they can focus on innovation. You are okay, you are done. That's not the case. Mm-hmm. Every company, every leaders, not only do they think about their own business, but also think about how to contribute to the planet, to the community, to society, to the country, to make the world a better place. That's one thing I learned a lot from you, John. Thank you so much.
Well, Eric, we learned from each other. I've really enjoyed the interview and the Fireside Chat today. I took a full page of notes that I'm going to follow up on. And I want to thank Jamie and Montgomery Summit for giving us the opportunity to share the views. I want to thank the people for joining us today. And this was a rush for me. This was really fun. And Eric, I wish you nothing but continued success and safety and good health. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jim.